Hello, and thank you for listening to our presentation on preparing for an inspection with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment Gamete Bank and Fertility Clinic program. The purpose of this presentation is to provide you with an overview of the inspection process. In this presentation, we will review the following: inspection authority and responsibilities, types and methods of inspections, communication from the program, how to prepare for an on-site inspection, and entity responsibilities. This presentation specifically addresses on-site inspections, which will be the program's main method to inspect facilities that are physically located in the state of Colorado. Entities that are located outside of Colorado will likely have a remote inspection, which will be covered in a separate presentation and available on our website. I want to briefly go over the program's authority to conduct inspections. While I won't read the law verbatim, the authority to conduct inspections is granted in Title 25, Article 57, Section 110 of the Colorado Revised Statutes. Statute also grants the program the authority to review required documentation, systems, and processes, and the authority to copy and take away copies of any documents that are required to be kept as part of the regulation. We are limited to inspecting only the processes, procedures, and records that are required by rule. For example, we can review results of screening and testing and your process for reporting positive results, since this is a requirement of rule, but we will not review records pertaining to known donations. The rules governing licensure of gamete agencies, gamete banks, and fertility clinics 5 CCR 1005-6 also include specific requirements that facilities must follow when interacting with the program, such as providing accurate and truthful information during inspections, investigations, and licensing activities, and making available, upon reasonable notice, records kept by the entity that are relevant to rule requirements. It is important to point out that although the program can request and take away copies of records as part of the inspection, investigation, or licensing process, identifying information about donors, recipients, or donor-conceived persons will be kept confidential and not retained once the inspection is complete. We may retain copies of procedures, forms, or other documents, such as lists of employees, training records, or other documents as needed. Let's briefly talk about the different types and methods of inspections. There are two types of inspections: routine and for cause. Routine inspections are conducted as a required part of the standard licensure process. These types of inspections occur before an initial license is issued and then annually before the license is renewed. Routine inspections are announced in advance, and you will be notified when an inspection is scheduled. For-cause inspections are conducted for a reason, such as investigating a complaint. Because there is a specific concern we need to address, for-cause inspections may either be announced, where we tell you an inspection is occurring, or they may be unannounced, where there is little to no advance notice of an inspection. Methods of inspections include on-site, where our inspector arrives at your physical location to review records, or remote, where we will ask for an electronic copy of records to be uploaded to a shared drive by a specified date, and we will review records electronically rather than coming to your facility. The method and type of inspection is at the discretion of the program. Also, any on-site inspection may be converted to a remote inspection if the program deems it necessary. We primarily communicate through emails with the entity administrator and corporate owner, general partner, or sole proprietor listed on the application. For this reason, it is very important that you notify us of any changes to this role or to the email addresses provided on your application. Failure to do so may result in missing important communication from us. Our program uses a software called Smartsheet to track and process applications. Email is the primary method of communication with you, so it is important to pay attention to emails received from the program, including emails that come from Smartsheet. Smartsheet sends emails that contain important information and instructions that need to be followed to process your application. Failure to follow these instructions may result in delays in processing your application or missing a notice of inspection. Be sure to check your spam folder and adjust filters as needed to ensure you receive all correspondence. After submitting your application for licensure, keep an eye out for a notice of inspection letter and be sure to follow the instructions to confirm you have received the notice and will be ready for the inspection on the date indicated. Locate and download the notice of inspection letter under the attachments section. This notice contains the scheduled date and time, as well as other important information to ensure your facility is ready for the inspection. Check the box to confirm you are aware of the information provided, and then click Submit Update to send the confirmation to the program. In this example notice of inspection, you'll see a list of documents to have ready at the start of the inspection. These items include any policies or procedures that have been updated since the application was submitted, a complete list of employees, including roles, titles, and dates of employment, a list of donors whose gametes were collected or matched on or after January 1, 2025, a list of recipients who were matched with donors on or after January 1, 2025, and written procedures for monitoring ovum donor retrieval cycles, family limits, and donor age at the time of donation if these were not already submitted with the application. Now, let's talk about steps you should take to prepare for an on-site inspection. There are steps you should take in advance to help you and your team be prepared when inspection time comes around. It is very helpful to identify the inspection role and responsibilities of staff ahead of time. Doing this can help avoid confusion and miscommunication the day of the inspection. Make sure your front desk staff is aware of the inspection and ready to introduce the inspector to the entity administrator upon arrival. Identify key personnel that need to be in the room during the inspection versus staff that just need to be available in the event they are needed. An individual directly responsible for the facility's compliance, such as the entity administrator, corporate officer, or owner, must be present either on-site or remotely at the time of the inspection. Communicate with your IT staff or facilities team and work with them to identify a point of contact and what support they may need to provide during the inspection. This may be especially helpful if your technology team is off-site. It can also be helpful to have someone who is delegated to take notes during the inspection and have a designated runner to retrieve requested records or staff. This helps control the number of people coming in and out of the room at any given time. It is helpful to have an area or workspace for the inspection identified ahead of time. This can be any place that has privacy and is ideally away from patient activities. Wherever this space is, there should be access to power outlets and power strips if needed. Everyone in the inspection should have access to secure Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, it may be necessary to establish temporary or guest Wi-Fi access for the inspector. If you have or plan on sharing electronic records, consider having an extra monitor or projector so the inspector does not need to look over your shoulder. You are also free to print these documents if you choose to. To ensure a smooth inspection, it may be helpful to test your processes in advance. For instance, does your front desk staff know who to contact and what to do when an inspector arrives? Can guest Wi-Fi access be established in a timely manner? Can you open various electronic folders, access all donor records, and share files through a projector or separate screen? Resolving any problems before the inspector arrives is always helpful. Now that you know what to expect, you're ready for your inspection. When the inspector arrives on site, Escort them to the room you've prepared and gather key personnel needed for the inspection. Once everyone is ready, the inspector will lead an opening meeting to conduct introductions and identify our main point of contact. The inspector will review the agenda, address any questions you might have, then ask for the list of documents that were requested in the notice of inspection. Using our checklist, we will review the information contained in the records we requested and verify requirements of rule have been met. For example, we will review donor records to verify each donor has signed a consent form agreeing to the disclosure of their identity prior to donation, that there is evidence that educational materials were both provided to and discussed with the donor before donation occurred, that family limits are being tracked, so on and so forth. The inspector may also request or retain copies of documents for our records if needed. We'll continue this process until the inspector has reviewed all of the requested records and completed the checklist. Inspections are a very busy time for everyone. There's a lot of activity going on in a short amount of time. Be prepared to bring in the staff person involved with a specific activity or bring in the subject matter expert to answer questions. It is always best to have the primary source person answer questions rather than answer questions on behalf of someone and risk giving incorrect information. Be truthful when answering questions. If you don't know the answer, it's okay to say this, but commit to finding the answer as soon as possible. Respond to requests timely so the inspection can continue to move forward. Finally, anytime you are unsure or unclear on a matter, ask for clarification. We're happy to assist you in understanding rule requirements or provide clarity so we're all on the same page. Once we have completed the checklist, we'll conduct a closing meeting to discuss any concerns or violations and answer any remaining questions you may have. Keep in mind, the inspection findings go through a department review before determining licensure, so we will not be able to indicate on the day of the inspection whether a license is granted. Within 30 days following your inspection, you'll receive a report detailing the findings of the inspection. Violations may require a corrective action plan to be implemented, which must be verified through another inspection before a license can be issued. If there were no violations, you may be issued a license. As always, we encourage you to reach out to the program through the email address on our website, and thank you for your time today.